I'm Lauren Tedesco, the Vice President of Learning and Development at the Automotive Parts Manufacturers Association.
Lauren, it's a pleasure to meet you. Let's just jump right into it. What do you see as the forces and trends that are shaping the Canadian automotive industry in general, but also in terms of its workforce in particular?
So I think that the automotive sector, not just here in Canada, but worldwide, is facing probably one of the biggest industrial shifts we've seen in 100 years since we saw Henry Ford, rolling out the production line. We're really on the cusp of moving towards mobility and technology. We see a lot of zero emission targets happening across countries worldwide. And then now with the launch of a lot more electric vehicles. And so these are really disruptive forces to the sector right now that are shaping a lot of those decisions, but it's also paving a way to a cleaner future. And so part of that that's affecting the workforce is that there's an entire generation of workers right now who will need to upskill and train as we move from, cars as we know it today into electric vehicles, and also looking at how we attract talent from other jurisdictions to come to our workforce and to expand that talent pool. Right now I say often it's a bit of the Wild West when we look at the sector, but I think that really is our opportunity to shape the future of what it looks like here in Canada.
Lauren, the APMA is soon going to launch a digital learning program. I'd like to ask you briefly, what is it? What's it going to do? And how will it benefit workers and companies here in Canada?
So we are launching the digital learning program here at APMA as the first industry-wide, industry-recognized training program. A lot of training can happen at the ground level in some of the larger organizations, but we really saw that there was a gap in accessing affordable, easy to use, put learning right in the hands of production line workers. How could we put all of that into a program that could be accessed by anyone? And so we are launching certifications and micro-credentials through this digital learning program that will really focus on things like lean manufacturing and Auto 101, health and safety. And it's really focused on those small and medium-sized businesses who might be resource strapped and aren't sure where to go for this type of education and training. Because we know coming down the pipeline is a lot of changes that will be happening to the sector. And so we don't want to play catch up. We want to be able to put something out there to really invest in the workers on the production line, put learning directly into their hands on a completely digital level. So it's on their tablet or on their cell phone or on a computer at work. And this really launches us into the space to remain globally competitive. Because if our workforce isn't adjusting, then we're going to play catch up, or we're going to lose a lot of our small and medium-sized businesses. And this shouldn't be a burden that they have to undertake. So we're seeing this war for talent happen, not just across Canada, but other jurisdictions in the world. And we want to make sure that we're at the forefront of that, creating a solution to an immediate problem and then looking at that long-term strategy as well.
Lauren, you mentioned the war on talent, which is global and it touches every sector, of course, especially the automotive sector, which is very talent and skills heavy. How are Canadian universities and academic institutions preparing workers to succeed in the future of the auto sector? And what role do you see industry academia collaborations playing to ensure that Canada has the best talent out there?
So I think we are in a real place of privilege here in Canada where our colleges and universities are part of a publicly funded system that allows access to anyone to access these institutions and seek post-secondary education. College and universities are a real driver in advancing our economic and social and cultural well-being. And collaboration between them and the sector, not just automotive, but all sectors across Canada, have really been important in creating innovation and a real network of clusters, coast to coast. And we see some top talent coming into those spaces. And with all of those resources available in post-secondary, industry has been really active in looking for those partnerships. I think that I probably have one call a week looking for opportunities about how we can better partner, because while academics are operating in one space, they want to hear from exactly what's happening on the front lines as we shift into this kind of zero emission electric vehicle future. And I think too, colleges and universities and other institutions have been really good at pivoting to a new way of learning. And so that's where we look at degrees or micro credentials or certifications or that continuing education piece. And with our digital learning program, we're looking to have offshoots so that maybe you're taking, a certification in lean, but you think, I'm really interested in the data behind this and I want to move into data sciences. We have partnerships with colleges and universities across Canada to be able to formalize that education and seek something more formal. And our goal is to always bring people back and cast a wide net and bring people back into the sector so that we're investing in them and they're staying and they're, really filling that long-term meaningful work that we need to take place here in automotive. So I think we're seeing a lot of diversity, not just in people, but in thoughts and ideas as we cast that wide net and work so closely with students who are graduating from post-secondary.
Now, one of the keys to winning the war on talent is to seize your talent, whatever pool it may be found in. From your perspective, what's being done to diversify the Canadian automotive industry's workforce? Also by bringing in more traditionally underrepresented groups into it and integrating them.
So I think, for at least the past decade, we've heard a lot of conversations happening in the automotive sector about the amount of retirements that are already taking place and will continue to take place over the next 10 years. And I believe here in Ontario, it's expected that 25% of workers currently in the workforce will have retired in that time frame. And so we're seeing a massive shift. And with that also comes a loss of knowledge as well, and transitioning that to the next generation of workers. One of our programs here at APMA, we saw an opportunity through, it's called our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Fund, is an opportunity to work with employers who identified that there is a massive labor shortage. And how do we find that new talent? And so we look at different groups like racialized communities, women, youth, people with disabilities. How do we go out and create access for them to come into the sector and participate in the workforce? And part of that discussion was supporting employers in that ramp up period. If someone hasn't participated or had a job in manufacturing before, it can be a real shock to walk into a plant floor, which are state of the art, and there's robotics and automation and artificial intelligence. It can be an overwhelming experience. And so through our EDI funds, we look at supports for attraction, retention, training on the job, mentorship on the job, skills upgrading, even supporting things like purchasing, hard hats and steel toe boots and PPE. All of those little pieces that were really difficult for companies to be able to invest in outside of the production line. That's what we're doing right now to help offset some of that burden when others who have never been in the sector come into it. And, human talent really is the new currency, and it's valuable across every sector. And so when we took a step back to say, how could we do this and how could we do it right so that we invest in people up front, they can see it's not just a job, but there are pathways to very meaningful careers here. And that exposure to the industry was key. And so programs like the EDI Fund are really part of that strategic plan to go out there and say, how can we look at the talent we already have, be able to fill that, and then working with governments at all levels to talk about what immigration looks like to these jobs as well, because there are so many open jobs and not enough people to fill them, and so much talent worldwide that we're just not leveraging.
Lauren, I owe you a big congrats because you were recently named a 2021 Canadian to Watch by Automotive News Canada. So thumbs up, congratulations, well done. I'd like to know from you, as somebody who's really deep in the space, what is the thing that excites you most about the future of Canada's automotive sector? and maybe in terms of its workforce particularly?
The potential for the sector now and where it's already come has been huge. And like I said, with robotics and automation and looking at artificial intelligence and really high paid, high quality jobs that are in such high demand that you will see the competitiveness across the sector. And so, really being able to um, find a career here that will continue to change, not jumping into the same job for the next 25 years, but being adaptable in that space. I also think, that exposure to the auto sector and talking to the next generation about what jobs here look like. We look at, the kindergarten to grade 12 curriculum, and sometimes it can be really focused on looking at the university pathway for post-secondary. But the potential in our sector really looks beyond that. And how do we drive more people into the skilled trades and build people with more soft skills like critical thinking and problem solving? And, everyone is so taken by cell phones right now, and you want to have the latest iPhone. But I think when we look at the automotive sector, you will have more connectivity with your vehicle to the outside world than your cell phone will. And I think the future of that is really huge. And I think it will have more impact than cell phones and everything else. And just the idea of electric vehicles and self-driving cars and autonomous vehicles, it really is a totally new space, one where people entering this workforce can be a part of that legacy. And I think it's really a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Lauren, you've given me so much already, so thank you very much. I want to ask one last question, and that's, what do you see as Canada's top competitive advantages in the battery space and the EV production space generally?
So, there are many countries globally who produce quality vehicles, and they might do it cheaper than us. But we have one of the most highly skilled and productive workforces in the world. And we continue to invest and pivot to adapt to the new skills that will be required, not just in the next couple of years, but looking at that longer term stretch. And we're ready for it. And we are also in Canada one of the world's top 5 reserves of critical minerals that will be needed for battery production. So when we look at things like nickel and lithium and cobalt and graphite, it exists right here in Canada. And we really need to make sure and keep pushing our governments to be forward thinking about that and be globally competitive and continue to invest in IT clusters across the country so that they are active partners and we continue across that public-private partnership. And I think with all of those major pieces in line, then we really do have what it takes to compete and win and build that foundation for not just battery, but the electric vehicle supply chain right here in Canada.